In your worksheets, you're going to find Improve the Moments resources. What this is a collection of a whole lot of interventions, and then what you'll see is this stop sign, and this is the protocol for what we need to do, and then where we need to insert different interventions to help us get through that loop that we spoke about in the other videos in a much more adaptive, healthy, mindful, and value led way. So when we think about what we need to do, everyone is like, I just need a protocol. I need a way through this. So let's talk about that now. When we're overwhelmed, when we're feeling those emotions, urges, sensations, impulses, and it's like super high, like 70 plus, okay? It's going to be extremely difficult for us to sit and rationalize, to tap into our mind, and get a result and implement a behavior that's really going to serve us. For the vast majority of us, this is where the problem is. Like, we know how we should be and how we should show up, but getting there is absolutely our challenge. So this is the protocol for exactly that. Now, let's go ahead and describe the processes, and then let's talk about what we can do. So, the first thing we're going to do is when we notice the emotions, sensations, urges, and impulses rising in the beginning, in the very early stages, not when it's overwhelming us and we can't figure out what to do left or right, okay? When we first start noticing, as soon as possible, that's like our first skill, is starting to be aware of whenever the emotions are coming, when, whether that's in our body, like our heart might be beating. So those first several beats where they're beating faster or harder or it seems louder, we want to pay attention to those sorts of things and catch it at the earliest stage possible. So we'll want to stop. We're going to sense into the experience of distress, anxiety, panic, sadness, guilt, any of the other disturbances. We're going to sense into it and then measure it. Okay, so if you're feeling your heart beating, for example, like so, then you might want to at least 80. Okay, so at least 80 on that thermometer that we talked about in the other video. Okay, then you're going to take a moment to become aware and breathe and caress, something to soothe. We want to get that down to workable levels. So way under 70, more in the green, because green is for flexibility, it's for psychological awareness, it's where we can tap into our wise mind instead of our logic mind or instead of our emotion mind, so that we can guide what we really need to do to have that value led experience. Okay, so that's where we're going to take a moment to become aware, and then we're going to observe. We're going to sense into it. We're going to do things to help us maintain it under that 50 mark. I said 70, but we want to really get as low as possible in the quickest amount of time. Okay, so we're going to be choosy depending on what we're experiencing. And that's something that I'll have to work with my clients individually to see what works best for them, what's more appropriate for them, given maybe the disorder that we're dealing with, or maybe what's happening in our everyday life. Okay. And then once we do manage to get that down to like 50 or below, so that we have capacity in our mind to rationalize, to decide, and to go toward khair, to go toward better, then P for proceed. Then we're going to do mindfully. We're going to say, I want to respond in a kind way, right? Instead of in an unkind way. And I'm going to have capacity at that point to do it. Okay? Because we've reduced the distress. We've overcome that internal struggle. All right? So then, let me reiterate. We're going to stop, take a moment, observe, and proceed. That's the skill that we need overall. Now, we have a couple of things that are going to create barriers for us. sometimes things that have been traumatic will be very difficult to get us there. We are not hoping for huge, dramatic changes in one or two sittings. This is going to be something that we're going to need to work on. Practice makes so much better. Practice makes improvement. So we might only feel 1% better, 2% better very slowly. But as we do this, inshallah, we have hope that we'll get better and better and better at it. Okay. Now, if we've had things which have been really big in our life, and I'll just put this little insert here that it's not what happened to us majority of the time, okay, completely. It is a factor, okay, but that's not the only factor. It's more about what happened inside of us whenever we experience that. So when I saw injustice being done inside of me, I got really furious and I made a determination that I'm going to be like this, I'm going to do like that. And, that created our shaping. Especially so whenever we're little, then those rules of living can be created, because of the things that happened around us and then what happened inside of us as a result. So then that's where our amygdala, among a lot of other things, get involved. Okay, we create templates, ways of being. Okay, so our nervous system is a part where our amygdala is the two almond shaped parts of our brain. Okay, on the left and the right. Okay, that amygdala is going to be sort of templated to respond in a certain way based on that emotional and cognitive memory. Okay, and we might not even remember it as an adult, but there will be this templated memory. And then when that memory gets triggered, then we'll have an automatic response where our amygdala, let's call it Amy, okay, she's our helper, although it might not look like it might not feel like it, but that's what she really believes she's doing. She really believes she's trying to keep us safe by speeding up our heart rate, by increasing our breathing, by giving us adrenaline and cortisol, all of these things to help us get ourselves safe. Okay, real or perceived, it doesn't matter. Amy thinks of it all the same. So we can't just tell hey Amy, I've got this, we're good, there's nothing happening. She won't believe that at first, or maybe second or third. Okay, it'll take some time so that she trusts that we've really got this. Okay, so we have to retrain our brain, our nervous system, our neurology, that we can manage even when it seems really big. So this is going to be the challenge that we've all got, because we're all brought up in, very different, places and events and situations, and it all hits us all so differently. The same thing can happen to two different people. The same exact thing can happen to two different people. And what happens inside those two different people can be vastly, vastly different. Okay, so everyone makes what's called rules of living. Like, these are the rules. When my body sees this or feels this, this is what we do. Okay, and that becomes that automatic way of replying, responding, and determining what to do. Okay, so this is one of our barriers. And it's something helpful for us to have our amygdala, to have our hippocampus, and all the things that make up our nervous system, our brain, and our, senses. However, it's been trained in a certain way for so long, so it won't be, overnight that we can retrain it. We have to make new habits slowly, slowly by practicing exactly this skill that I've mentioned here. You stop, you take a moment, you observe, and then you proceed once you're regulated. We don't make decisions in a dysregulated state because it may not be helpful in the long run. It may be looking immediately helpful, or somehow we're getting some sort of satisfaction. Either we're relieving distress or we're getting pleasure, but nonetheless, it may not be overall congruent with our values, and we might not feel good about it. Okay, and then that's going to create this whole other spin-off cycle that we don't want to do. So This will help us to get toward leading a more intentional life. I hope this was helpful. You will find over here also in your resources lots of different things that you can tuck over here in the T and the O, where you're going to want to caress and self soothe and help your nervous system. And then you're going to observe it as you're doing those things going down. And then when it does, then you proceed mindfully. You decide, like, yes, this is actually what I want to do. Although when I was really angry, it was really hard to get myself to do it. Okay, so one of these things over here will be the links that can help you. This is your resource kits. All right, guys, reach out if you have anything.